I am Shimrit Nativ. I am a mindset expert and a success and freedom mentor. And I created Master Your Path a few years back. It used to be just me and myself and my laptop and my phone. And it grew into this global community of many, many, many countless people all around the world, and this incredible team as well. And we are a really strong team on a mission to change the world one person at a time. I live in Berlin, Germany, with my husband and our 13-year-old son and dog. And I am, as I said, on this mission to change the world one person at a time. I got this phrase from a client, one of my very, very, very first clients, who told me after a while working together, after like 3 months or so, she said, Shimlik, you're changing the world one person at a time. And it touched me so deeply. And since then, that's how I've been defining my mission, because the material that we work with, the information, the tools, the embodiment, and the support that we share in our programs, in our free workshops, is changing the world. And it is the purpose of this work, is to change the world, because actually what we are teaching and what we are practicing and what we help others practice and master as well is what I call the skill of freedom. Finally, the book is out, The Skill of Freedom. And I always say, freedom is a skill you can practice and master. I've been saying this for years. Freedom is a skill you can practice and master. And whatever that is, whatever freedom is for you, right? Whether it is financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, emotional freedom, whatever freedom, it is a skill. It is an expression of an internal state of being. And that internal state of being is something that you can learn. And so many of you here are learning and practicing and mastering more and more. And we actually decided to host this session today for those of you here that have been doing the work. So I'm recognizing so many of your names and so many of your faces. As I said, either you are one of our students in our advanced containers, in our coaching certification program, in our Rise Mastermind, or you've been there in the past, or you've been in this world for a while. So I think more than not, we have in the room people that have been in these rooms in one way or another, at least once, if not multiple times. And so you know a lot of the teachings and you know a lot of the work, and you've been doing it, and you've been growing, and you've been evolving, and you've been creating changes. And yet there is still a gap between what you know and what you are aware of and what you recognize and what you practice and what you're actually able to access in real time in the moment to shift right there, like in real time in the moment. Type in a yes in the chat if this is resonating with you. If you still have this experience of, I know that I am a spiritual being. I know that all possibilities exist. I know that I can choose to be, do, and have whatever I desire. I know that it's a skill that I can practice and master. I know my patterns. I know my cycles. I know what I want. And yet, in real time, you don't access all this that you know, and you just look at yourself, observe yourself falling into the same hole in the ground. Well, that sounds a bit dark, but I mean, like, if you walk in the street and there's a hole in the ground, literally, the first time you might fall into it, the second time still, but at some point you're supposed to know it's there and find another way to get to where you're going, right? So you're still finding yourself falling into that same trap, let's call it, of your own patterns, your own programming. Type in the chat yes if you are resonating with this. So now I'm finally looking into the chat and I see that many of you are resonating with this. So if you have been following me for a while, you are familiar with the term the human instrument. We're not going to go too deep into that today, but just to recap shortly for those that are here for the first time, when I say the human instrument, I mean your human, so your body and your mind, your conscious and your subconscious, okay? Your personality is part of the program that this marvelous instrument is set to, together with a set of patterns, belief systems, and so on and so forth. And who you truly are, of course, is not this instrument. It is a spiritual being So type in a yes in the chat just because there are some new folks here with us. So I want to make sure, do you resonate with this, that you are a spiritual being? If not, not a problem. We are all scientifically based here. If you don't resonate with the statement that you are a spiritual being, we can call you an energetic being, because that is in fact true. And science says it so, right? But I'm assuming if you found your way into this room that you do resonate with, and I see in the chat the yeses are popping up. So that's beautiful. So you are a spiritual being, right? You are a spiritual being. And as spirit, you are expressed through this human instrument with its conscious mind and its subconscious and its body and its programming and your personality and your concept of yourself. Through this marvelous instrument, spirit is expressed and then experienced. All right. Now, we're not going to go into all of that so much. This is just for all of us to understand the terminology. All right. So your human instrument is who you are as a human. And that can, of course, be updated. The program that this instrument is operating on can be updated. And of course, when we say that this is a skill you can practice and master, like any skill, you apply it through an instrument, right? So that's your human instrument through which you apply the skill of creation. All right. So now the creative process is flowing to and through you all the time. Now, and you are directing it. But if you don't master the instrument and the skill, then you are creating by default. You are directing the flow of source energy through a pattern that has been you've inherited it, or a set of patterns that you've inherited through the programming process, mostly when you were growing up in your early years, and some of it a little bit genetically. And so when you don't when you don't master your instrument and know how to update that program and direct the flow of source energy through your instrument, you are reacting. So if you've never noticed the inversion that we have with the word create and react, then I'm happy to be the one to shine the light on that for you. But I'm sure that many of you have noticed that before, right? So react and create are polar opposites. They are polar opposites, right? Create, a state of creation, is a state of being where you are making conscious choices, deliberately directing source energy into the forms that you desire. While reacting is that you reacting again and again, reacting again and again based on a set of patterns, and therefore recreating, not creating something new, but recreating the same old over and over and over again, copy pasting your past onto your future. And that happens because you are living in survival. So survival and creation, reaction and creation, two polar opposites. All right. So just laying out some foundation for the conversation that we're having here today and for the process that we're going to go through today together. All right. So most of you know this, right, already. And as we said, this is not about understanding this material. This is not about being aware of your patterns through which you are recreating, reacting. This is about accessing in real time, in the moment, so you can actually shift, not only in your meditation, not only when you sit to visualize, not only when you're sitting to journal, not only when you are contemplating, not only when you are praying. All those things are very important, very powerful, very much part of the practice. But we are talking not when you practice, but when you are on stage. So those of you that are already my students, you know how I talk about this a lot, right? There is the practice room. You practice. I many times give these analogies for those who don't know me. I was a musician. I am a musician. I just don't practice it right now, and I'm not actively engaged with the practice and art of music, but I've done that for 20 years. And so a lot of my understanding and my thinking and my teaching, I was also teaching music for 20 years, it comes from that world and from that experience. And so you practice your instrument, you practice your performance, you practice. And then you go on stage as a performer, right? And there are some things that happen on that stage that you cannot practice, no matter how much you practice, because they only happen on stage. The lights, the sound, the audience, your own nervous system, what you do when you miss, when you forget your line, whatever it is, you cannot practice these things in rehearsal because the conditions are just not there. You can't make them up. They are real time conditions, right? And so that's what we're talking about today, the stage moment, the real time conditions, and how do you shift there in real time? All right. So again, you are not the reason you are still repeating the same cycles, the same patterns, and maybe feel like you're stuck or behind, or is not because you don't understand. It's not because you're not aware. It is because you cannot access what you understand and what you see when it matters in real time when you're on stage. You can't access it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. So let's lay down a few more foundations. There are laws that govern our human experience. All right? As spirit in the unified field, there is no separation, right? Hence it's unified. So there is no separation. Source energy is one, right? Source energy is one. And you, as a spiritual being, are an one of my mentors, Neil Donald Walsh. He calls this an individuation of God, or an individuation of, if the word God is too loaded for you, fill in the blank. Source, energy, whatever you want to call that. Okay. You are as a spiritual being, you are an individuation of source energy of God. And there is no separation. All is one. That's why when we say creation is finished, all possibilities exist, it's because there is no separation. It's all one formless substance, one source substance. So in our human experience, there are laws that govern it. One, we're all very familiar with this, that we're not going to talk about, just as a reference point, is the law of gravity, right? We're all aware of it. And because we've been introduced with the theory of it, the idea of it, the concept of it, we could explain to ourselves, others explained it for us, and then we can keep explaining it to ourselves, our experience. So if I drop something, it falls. I know why. Law of gravity, right? And so I will work with the law in accordance so I am well, right? So I won't jump up outside the window because I know there's the law of gravity and I don't need to consciously think about that. I don't need to access that knowledge in the moment, right? It's already programmed. I'm not going to do that. But other laws, we haven't been introduced in the same way early enough and repeatedly enough for that understanding to be programmed into our consciousness and subconscious to that same level that it's automatic. And I want to talk about 3 of those laws as the foundation of our work today. One, very, very important, we already touched on that today, is the law of opposites. The law of opposites decree that everything exists in its polar opposite to the same degree, right? So if there is that much light, there is that much darkness, and vice versa. If there is up, there is down. If there is hard, there is easy. If there is heavy, there is light, and so on and so forth. Very, very important. The law of opposites. In other words, again, Neil Donald Walsh, my mentor, we're going to have him on the podcast, sneak peek, very, very soon. In a couple of weeks, you will be able to listen to the episode. When Neil talks about the law of opposites, he says, in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. I'll repeat that. In the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. This is Neil, right? This is profound, and you will see why I'm saying this here when we go into the process, all right? So the law of opposites, we've defined it in 2 ways. One is that everything has its polar opposite to the same degree. This means that if you are experiencing a lot of difficulty, there is the same level of ease available for you. That this is a law, okay? Just like if you drop something, it falls, no exceptions. Law of gravity, there is no exception to this law. I didn't make this up, okay? I'm just the messenger. I'm just I have the passion and given the gift of explaining this in yet another way that some people find easy to relate to and receive. All right. But this is a law, just like the law of gravity. There are no exceptions. If you're experiencing something to some degree, the polar opposite of it to the same degree is available to you. This is one way to understand the law of opposite. And the other, the way Neil presented it to us, in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. So that means that if you want to be rich, you cannot be rich without experiencing poverty. I'm talking about polar opposites, right? Now, to make this a little bit more related to our experience, right? Because our experience is not black and white. We experience a lot of contrast in our human experience, but it's not usually so black and white. We go into the second law that I want to lay as a foundation for our conversation today, which is the law of relativity. Okay. Law of relativity gives us context. Okay. Our experience is always contextual. All right. So there is a context to our experience. There is contrast and context, opposites and relativity. There is a scale. You're going to see why this is important when we go into the process. And the third law that is important for our process is the law of cause and effect that Emerson called the law of laws, the law of laws, the law of cause and effect. And what I want you to understand here, and this will take us into our process, is that the thought, okay, let's talk about the creative process just for a moment, even though it's not the topic of our conversation today, just to have that again as a foundation. Source energy is flowing to and through your human instrument all the time. All right? That's life flowing to and through you all the time. With your human instrument, you receive it as an idea. So your human instrument is designed to transmute source energy into physical experiences. All right? Physical experiences. So first it formalizes as a thought, as an idea. Then it transmutes into a more dense layer of energy, which is a feeling. Now you're not just thinking it, you're feeling it. Then you're transmuting it into a physical experience in your body, in your reality. Everything that is physical reality, very dense, right? So thought causes your state, that causes your behavior and your physical experience, all right? Cause and effect. The cause is always internal, always internal. The effect is always external. We switch that around all the time. That's why we are reacting instead of creating, because we say, just listen to how we speak as humans. We say, yeah, I'm really stressed today because I have so many things to do. So we reverse it. My internal state, stress, is an effect of an external cause, a lot of things to do, but that's never correct. So this is like jumping off the window, disregarding the law of gravity, because it's disregarding the law of cause and effect. Type in a hell yes if this landed with you. This is so important because we do that all the time. I am stressed because I have so many things to do. I am stuck because there are no jobs out there for me. I am frustrated because they didn't do what I told them to do, or because things are not going as fast as I want. So I'm literally declaring who I am using my divine power. I am, that's the name of God, I am, and making my I am, my internal state, the effect, and the external, the cause, which is never correct. Never correct. It defies law. So I'm basically using the law against myself, just like jumping out the window, using the law of gravity against myself. So the cause is always internal, whether we remember it or not, whether we say it or not, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just like if I drop something, it falls. It doesn't matter. Even if it's a feather, it will fall to the ground, right? Law of gravity, law of cause and effect. All right. So then what we just said with the creative process, spirit, energy, thought, idea, emotion, physical experience. I want to now take you through a process that helps you access the real-time moment to shift on a cause level, which is internal always, so you can change your reality as a result in real time using these layers of experience. And I want to guide you to work with the elements, okay? With the elements: air, water, earth, and fire, right? 4 elements. There's a fifth one, but we're not, that's the source, right? Source energy is the fifth element. When we kind of touched on that now already. So now let's go to the elements themselves, okay? So your experience always moves through these layers. And at any moment, you are in one of these 4 elements, okay? In any moment you are in one of these, of course, you are made out of the 4 elements, but in any moment of your experience, you are operating in one of these elements. And each element requires a different tool to shift, all right? And that's what we're going to practice today. So for those of you that have been working with me for a while, some even for years, this is new, right? So I promised you something new, and this is new, all right? We've never spoken about this before, and this is a new way to access real-time shifts, okay? So when you can identify which element you're in real time, now, you can then know which tool to use in real time, now, and then you can really shift quickly, all right? Because if you're applying the wrong tool in the wrong state, again, that's when it's like you're on stage, like we said before, and now it's like, oh my God, I forgot my line. I knew everything. I was practicing. I'm aware of everything. I know the drills, but now I forgot the order or whatever, as far as this metaphor takes us, yes? So then there is some preparation work for this. And then I'm gonna invite you to raise your hand where you by identifying in which element you're most frequently in, and we will go into the process with hot seat coaching, and everyone will be able to see themselves during that process, all right? So let's make it real for you. Think about a situation, right? We're talking about real-time situations. Of course, this is not a real-time, like the real-time moment is that you're here in this room, right? But for the sake of understanding the process and learning how to use it in any other real-time situation, when you are filling the blank because of feeling the black, feeling stressed because you have too much to do, feeling this because of, and you want to switch that around and take authority of your own state in real time. Let's now, in this moment here in this room, think about a situation that is most frequent that you can think of where you don't access that shift. Right? When you know the pattern, you know what you're supposed to think, what you're supposed to feel, what you're supposed to do, what you want to have happen, and you just can't manage to shift it. Think about that situation. And then think about what's the most dominant thought there. Like I've already given you some examples, right? I'm stressed because I have so much to do. Is it a dominant thought? Dominant thought, right? I'm always late because there's just not enough time in the day. Or I'm so frustrated because it's just been taking so long. So all these examples that I've given you are thoughts that can be dominant for many people, right? So what is yours in that situation that you've thought about? So now you've identified the situation and the dominant thought. Now, one more question I'm going to ask you all is, what is the emotional signal there? Okay. So your emotions are really, really important. They are a really important feature in your human instrument because they give you the exact indication, moment by moment, which frequency you are tuned to. So if we go back to the polar opposites, we can call them plus and minus, right? Plus and minus, 2 polar opposites. Every magnet you take, every battery you take, you have polar currents, polar opposites, plus and minus. So, and in our human experience, law of relativity says that between these plus and minus, there's a scale. So plus and minus, polar opposites, scale of relativity between them. Quite simple. So then your emotions, that's a very important feature in your human instrument, give you the indication where on the scale with every single moment where on this scale you are in, all right? Or at or on. Where on the scale you are on or at. I don't know which prefix is the right one here, but where are you on the scale? Okay? So that's your emotion. So now think about the situation, think about the thought, and ask yourself, what is the feeling? Okay? What is the feeling? And where is it on the scale? All right? So if, let's say, all the way to the plus, this is like joy, bliss, freedom, whatever words you can use to express pure love, pure gratitude, these plus emotions. And the negative, the minus will be despair, fear, depression, right? Very, very low emotions. Then where are you on the scale? If you want, you can give it numbers, let's say from 0 to 10, if that helps. But where are you on the scale? So these are the questions that I want you to answer for yourself. Because here's the thing, energy catches momentum, right? Movement. Energy is movement, right? Always. There is no stagnant energy. Energy moves. It's inherent in its nature. And so movement has momentum, right? We're talking about moment by moment, momentum. The more the direction that is applied to the energy that is moving through the instrument is sustained, the movement catches momentum, right? And that relates to the element you're in, all right? So if it catches momentum, you're thinking that negative thought, I'm stuck, I'm late, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, I can never do this right, I blah, blah, blah. And your feeling is not yet caught up with that. This is not high momentum. This is still in air. Raise your hand if you can recognize this in your experience. Hi, dear. Good to see you.
Hi.
We're going to take it step by step. So let's start with air. Kalina, you've identified this for yourself, right? Can you share a little bit what you have identified? So what is the situation? What is the thought? And where is it on the scale? Share with us a little bit what came up for you as you were answering these questions.
What came up for me is that I keep going, being in creating momentum and creating situations where I'm, creating opportunities. And then I regress in real time to remembering or bringing up something in the past instead of saying it being forward looking. And that's something I'm aware that I keep doing. I keep like bringing up past instead of looking forward to what I want to contribute.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's go into this last bit that you just shared. So what do you mean keep bringing up past? Is this in your thinking?
Yeah, it's like I'm in my thinking, and in my conversation.
Well, of course, everything then translates into feelings and actions, but let's go to the thought layer. Okay. So how does it sound like in your mind? Like, what is the thought when you bring up the past?
The thought is defeat.
Okay. It's really like last time or all the last times or so many times before I failed, basically, in those relationships. I was defeated.
I think it's a feeling of not handling it as well as I could have.
Okay, good. So the thought is I didn't handle it as good as I should have, right?
Right.
Could have.
Yeah.
And then you feel defeated, you feel that you failed, you feel regret.
Yeah.
Really good. So first of all, write that down even, all right?
Okay.
And those that are listening here and watching, do this for yourself, right? So you can see how I guided Carolina to identify the thought. There's a thought, there's a feeling, right? That's the thought. I could have or should have handled it better. And now I feel I feel regret, I feel defeated, I feel that I failed. So because we are working in air, right? Course, we fluctuate, right? So it's not like you are an air person and you always think thoughts that don't really activate emotion. Of course not. We all move through these layers all the time. We want to identify in real time which element we're in so we can access it. So I'm sure that sometimes you are not in air. It already goes into a deeper emotional state, you're more activated, and then you behave in a certain way. And these things happen very quickly. Of course, we are breaking down something. It's like, yeah, I'm going to step out from our conversation for a moment just to explain this to you and everyone from the theoretical level for a moment so you understand. And some of you have heard me explain the work in this way. It's like if you practice playing an instrument, a musical instrument, right? Then you practice. My instrument was flute, so there are the lips, and with the lips, there's the lower lip, there's the upper lip, then there's the tongue, then there is what you do with your diaphragm, and then it's your fingers, and then of course and you practice each aspect of the instrument and the use of it and the skill separately. So in real time on stage, so to speak, or literally, you'll be able to be in flow. But when you're able to be in flow, you also know sometimes if the flow is interrupted and you're on stage, when you master your instrument and you know your tools, you know, oh, now is where I'll just focus on my diaphragm for a moment. Like, you know, your access points in real time. So this is kind of like what we're doing now. Of course, in real time, you're not only thinking. You're thinking, feeling, and acting and creating in real time now. But when you understand in which element you're more dominant in every given moment, you know how to access the shift in that real time. Okay, so Kalina, since you raised your hand saying, I think that many of those times I'm in air, like it's just a thought that I have. I'm not all fully engaged. You don't like fall into defeat and feel like a complete failure and just like have a panic attack in the meeting, right? You like, but you still have that thought and it creates an effect because that's a cause that creates an effect, right?
Yeah.
So we're working on that level. It doesn't mean that you, Carlina, will never work with any tool, right? But that's how we are breaking down the skill right now, right? To upper lip, lower lip, diaphragm, and so on, if you're following my analogy here, right? So now we're working on the air level. And on the air level, there is a thought, right? So when you are in this real-time situation and you recognize, oh, okay, I know this thought, right? Because you're aware of your patterns. That's what we said. This is when you are aware of your patterns. This is not beginner work, what we're doing here. Okay. So you're aware of your pattern and you're like, okay, here's that thought again. That thought of I should have done this better. And now what do you do? So first of all, you interrupt the pattern and you can choose a certain, like an activator. It can be anything. It can be to take 3 breaths. It can be to clutch your thumb in your pocket. It can be to blink twice. It can be to play a song in your mind, a specific song that you love. It can be anything. It's just an activator. Something very quickly that you're ready with, that you do in real time. Does that make sense? It's like you're giving yourself a signal. Okay?
Yeah.
Like you're
Yes.
giving yourself a signal. You're directing yourself. All right? So that's number 1. Okay? So when you work with this in your rehearsal room, you're going to choose that. So in real time, when you recognize I'm in air, you're going to first of all interrupt the pattern by pressing that button, so to speak, activating with your chosen activator. You're going to interrupt the pattern. Okay? That's number 1. Then number 2, you're going to ask yourself, of course, this takes a little bit of practice to be able to do this in real time, but you're going to ask yourself, what is the next better feeling thought? What is the next better feeling thought? Okay. Of course, when you're in your rehearsal room, you can do this in writing, and I encourage you to practice this. So you're better at doing this in real time when you're in the moment with that associate and you want to show up differently. You're not going to take out your journal and write down all other thoughts that you may be thinking. But when you're practicing this, you can do this. And I recommend doing this in writing, right? What is the next better feeling thought? Not best feeling thought, better feeling thought. One little better, right? So if you are in air and you are thinking this thought and you are recognizing, okay, I am somewhere around 8 on that scale that we said, right? You measure the thought Okay, what will take me to 8.2 kind of thing? What is the next better feeling thought? Okay, can you think now, Kalina, what can be a next better feeling thought from I should have handled this better?
Acceptance.
Acceptance is not a thought, but we can develop this into a thought, right? I'm going to translate what I think you're reaching for, but you tell me if that it is, if that's it. Okay. So
Okay.
you kind of want to accept how you've handled things in the past. And
Hmm.
this can also lead to this is a new moment, right? All my
Right.
past moments of how I've handled it have no bearing to this moment. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that I can work with that.
Work with that, right? So I've should have handled this better all those past times. This is a new moment. It's a little better feeling thought, right?
Right.
Now, as we said, this is momentum. So you can even take it next and say, okay, what is a better feeling thought than this? Right? So the important key here is not to stretch yourself to the best feeling thought, like from I should have handled this better and I've failed all those times to I got this. I'm the best at this. I nail it every time. This is too
Mhm.
much, right? But
Right.
actually, you can get there pretty quickly, especially when you're in air. Actually, not even. You will see later how you can do that shift even when you're in water and earth, okay? It's just a different tool. But in air, it's about just thinking the next better feeling thought, the next better feeling thought, and then quite quickly you can shift your state by doing that. So, okay, let's just recap, okay? First of all, you interrupt the pattern, you have your cue, right? You have your activator. And then you ask yourself, what's the next better feeling thought? And you ask yourself a few more times until you find something that is better enough that you can you can hold, okay? And you repeat it to yourself a few times. Of course, there is a little bit more to that than this, but because I want to make sure that and I'm aware of our time, I want to make sure we're going through all the elements and having more people. I'm going to leave it here with this. But can you see how Carlina and others as well who recognize themselves in this layer can work with this? All right. So you are aware of the thought, you interrupt the pattern, and you ask yourself, what's the next better feeling thought? And you tune yourself a little bit higher from 8 to 8.2 to 8.5 like this, and you learn with practice how to do this in real time when you recognize that this is the level of shift in your thinking, in
Mhm.
just the way you think, you can quickly shift. Does that make sense, Carlina? Can you see how you can start working with that?
Yes, that's really helpful. Really good. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really, really good. Beautiful. The thing is that when you really go all into the work and you really, really commit to mastering the tools that you are learning about, that you are given, real transformation happens. Real transformation happens. And what I want to do is invite someone to join me here so we can have an enlightening conversation. Hi, Emily. I'm happy that we have you here before we move on with the process.
Yes, I would love to share some of my experiences. Biggest change is that I'm really in the flow of what I want to do, and I'm able to sustain myself in a higher level and continue through. So it's wonderful. Before I would have a great idea and I would go after it and I would be working for some months and then all of a sudden I was stuck and I wasn't able to move. And there was really it was my mind. I was blocking myself. And that's just not happening anymore. It's really very exciting. And it's hard for me now to even think what was it all about? But because it's just automatic now. Like I have a new consciousness essentially. Since working with you, I started my company in the summer, and now we're asking for our first grant, which is a €500,000, and I think we're going to get it. So it's all happening and really incredible. These things show up and I find it really playful and fun and exciting and it gives me a lot of energy and it moves me forward. The mind just being in the positives. Just like I said, it's much more automatic. There are very few times now. And if so, then I pivot very quickly. Be able to hold the energy in relationships, in in money. Those things I didn't realize I was able to make it flow, but it was on a small scale always. If I can do it on a small scale, I can do it on a large scale. The universe doesn't make a difference. And I love that. So it's amazing. And that is really when you really feel it and you experience it, then things start happening. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I don't want to keep you long, and I also want to make sure that we're going through the full process today. And I know that you are on your way to another beautiful creation, I'm sure. So I can't wait to hear more about it. And thank you for coming on and just giving us a glimpse of how it looks like and sounds like and feels like when you really are able to shift in this way and embody the work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
I have a good rest of your drive there and exhibition.
Thank you.
And that's it, right? That's when you're able to really take all these concepts and ideas and understanding and awareness, but actually shift in real time and collapse the gap. That's what we are here talking about, collapsing the gap between what you know and what you are, what you think and what you create and experience. That's the magic. And so Emily is giving us an example of how it looks like when you really do that. And Emily worked with me for a while. She's been in our Rise Mastermind. But today I do want to extend a new opportunity. We thought about how to create a new opportunity for everyone, those that are with us already in our other containers and those that have been wanting to work with us for a while. And so I'm just going to mention it here, but then we're going to go into water, okay? But this opportunity is what we call the now shift, all right? The now shift. So the now shift is an 8-week transformation experience. You're going to learn how to work with the 4 elements to activate your authority in real time. I'm going to talk more about the now shift later, but just in general terms, this is an 8-week transformation with live calls with myself, and it's focused on what we're covering here today, which is specifically to work with the 4 elements to activate your authority in real time. All right, so this is new material. So it's an 8-week transformation journey. Here are the 4 elements, right? We touched today on air, water, and earth. We're going to go into all of them so much more in depth. Okay, so in each one of them, you're going to have the whole thing laid out for you. Today, we just had little samples, but we're going to have opportunity to work with you directly. All of those calls are with myself. Then you're going to have time between the calls to implement, to do the work, to receive feedback. We're going to have additional to the biweekly calls, there are also 2 Q&A calls, and then we're going to work with you in between the calls as well. So for each one of these elements, you're going to have a clear tool for yourself individually, personally, right? As you could see from the sample today. So, and that will allow you to identify in which element you're in real time, and then work with a tool that is available that is accessible in that level, in that element. Okay. So if you're in air, you're going to have clear choice of directing your thought, your attention, taking yourself outside of the mental loop. If you're in water, you're going to access and shift the pattern beneath the surface level reaction. If you're in earth, you're going to stabilize your decision and your action. And if you're in fire, you're going to work on the deeper level of healing and merging your desire with your identity. And again, you're going to learn how to recognize it in real time, how to identify which element you're in real time. So identify the pattern, the element, and then apply the tool and shift in real time. That's the purpose of this work. It's very, very specific, very, very focused. Okay. 8 weeks, very, very focused on this. Okay. And what that will unlock for you is to be able to make clearer decision in any area of your life, right? And just like Emily shared today, by the way, she mentioned it's like in business, with money, in relationships, it's gonna free energy for you, because when you are reacting, as we said today, when you are in reaction all the time in those real-time situations, then your energy, your potent energy, is being consumed by the pattern because you're reacting. So it's not available for creating. When you know how to shift in real time, you are releasing potent energy in real time that is now available for you to create, to lead, to heal, to grow. And that will allow you to move forward, right? To create tangible and measurable results in your life. It's going to develop your self-trust, your self-worth, your confidence. So many people have low confidence, low self-worth. They feel like they cannot be their true selves. So that's going to really empower and amplify your personal power and stabilize it under pressure, which is really, really important in those real-time moments when you know better than them and this emotion takes over, right? Or when you're going to sleep and your mind gets more loose and these negative thoughts take over, or in all of the examples that we've given, or when you're really experiencing loss or financial pressure or whatever it is, you're going to know how to lead yourself and be your own author in real-time situations, which is really, really powerful and important. All right. So many of you have commented air, which is beautiful. Now we are going to go into water. So as Emily just shared, in her darkest moments, when she lost one of the closest people to in her family, this was very difficult, but that actually gave her access to the most powerful transformation and to the most powerful transmutation of energy. And that's what happens in the water level. When you are really much more activated emotionally, you can actually access the polar opposites even more powerfully. All right. So those of you that are or have been in the Rise Mastermind, the next thing I'm going to say is going to sound familiar. When you are in the eye of the storm, you can the eye of the storm can turn into the eye of the needle. What do I mean by that? When you are in the eye of the emotional storm, feeling the emotions, feeling the failure, feeling the anxiety, feeling the stress, and it's already taking over, like asking yourself, what will be the next better feeling thought is not going to cut it. Can you see now the difference between air and water? When you're in air, asking yourself what's going to be the next better feeling thought is something you can work with. And then you can work with it fast and you can change the momentum of the direction that the energy is flowing in very fast. But when you are activated emotionally, this is not going to cut it. You're going to ask yourself, what's the next better feeling thought? And the other part of you will say, F you, right? Like, don't ask me this right now because I'm feeling this. Like, I can't even think. I'm feeling. Type in a 2 in the chat if you know what I mean, if you've ever had this experience. Like, this is not, and what's the next better feeling thought? Like, leave me alone. Okay, I see all these twos coming in. Now, here's the thing though, that doesn't mean that you cannot shift. That's what I want you to take from this, right? Because you might be thinking, oh yeah, well, okay, when I'm not that engaged emotionally, I can shift in the moment. But when I'm feeling like this, I can't, right? No, not right. You can still shift. That's the thing. You just want to identify which element you're in and then know what is the tool that is available for you. So now I want to invite you to raise your Zoom hand if you can recognize in the situation that you thought of that you are in water more often than not. That you're like, next better feeling thought is not going to cut it. I'm feeling this emotion and I don't know how to shift it in real time. Just raise your Zoom hand so I can invite you to the hot seat to do this process with me. Okay, Krista, let's go.
So if I am having, I don't know, conversation with somebody, right? So I would like cut them off because I already know what they're gonna say, right? And then I am really like, because I know better, I think, I am giving them advice and I'm like saying what they think and then people are getting angry at me and then I am getting angry at them because
So then let's focus on the emotion because we are in water. Okay.
Yeah.
You used the word anger. Yes.
patience, impatient, anger. Yeah.
Impatience and anger.
Yeah.
All
Like,
right.
like I already know what they think or something like
Okay. And you're saying this is at this level where you like it's taking over. It's not just a thought, air.
yeah.
I know what you think, but you're just feeling this impatience taking over and it's turning quickly into anger.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really good. Amazing. So then let's work with that. We are in water, right? So we're not dealing with the thought. You're already like impatience turning to anger, like even the way you're describing it, it's so clear that you're in water, right? Because like the momentum is, and this is not good or bad, by the way. This needs to be very, very clear. No good and bad. Plus and minus are not good and bad, right? This is just movement of energy. Nothing is good or bad. It is what it is. We're attaching meaning to it. So now what I'm saying is like, look at you, Krista, building momentum into anger, right? But you know that because we've been working for a while. But I just want to say by the way, I love it that your book is right there. Like my book here, my book there. So, so beautiful, so sweet. I appreciate that. It fills my heart. Thank you. So momentum is building, impatience quickly building up into anger. So this is really, really clear and you've identified yourself well. This is water, right? It's like emotion building up. So now we're not dealing with the thought, we're dealing with the emotion, okay? And so what is the opposite of impatience? Well, that's easy. That's patience. Like, right? The language gives us this. It's
Calm.
spelled it out for us. What is the opposite of anger?
Calm.
Calm. Okay, good. So let's work with that. Let's work with these two emotions because they come very close together for you. Someone suggested peace. I think peace and calm are very close. So this fits. And anyway, of course, it's what it is for you. So now remember that we're talking about the law of polarity, the law of opposite. We said that before, right? So we want to work with the law, just like you're not jumping out of the window. You understand there's the law of gravity, or you can hang things because you understand the law of polarity and how it works. So you can hang your plant there or whatever. Like we work with the law to our advantage. Now we want to work with this law to our advantage. So we're not so much working with the law of relativity like we did in air. What is the next better feeling thought? We're going for the law of opposites straight in, okay? The law of opposites says, as we said before, that everything has its polar opposite to the same degree, right? In other words, if you're feeling that much impatience, that much patience is accessible for you in the same moment. Now, again, this is not judgment. This is not like, Krista, come on, you know that you can be patient. Why are you impatient? We're just laying out the facts, okay? This means that if you can, in the eye of the storm, move through the eye of the needle from impatience, you can access patience. The fact that you are impatient means you can be patient right now. The fact that you are angry means that you can be, as much as you are angry, you can be calm right now when you know how to do this. Making sense so far?
Theoretically, yes. Yeah.
Theoretically. Don't forget that this is about practicing, right?
Yeah.
I want you to understand this. I understand you. I get that you understand this theoretically, but I want you to let yourself really, really understand it. Like, wow. Okay, let me say another thing here for you and everybody who are resonating, because we are all in water sometimes, right? Me too. Obviously, that's our range, right? As humans, we are supposed to have a range, an emotional range. Otherwise, we will be limited in how we can use our instruments. So hear this. When you are able to go in the eye of the storm, through the eye of the needle, you can access the polar opposite. What does that really mean? It means that you can, while feeling impatient, access patience. While feeling anger, access calm, right? What does that mean? It means that if you are able to let your human, Krista, who's called Krista, feel impatience or anger and recall your spiritual beingness and let yourself feel impatient, but wrap it around with patience. Let yourself feel anger, but wrap it around with peace. Let's give an example with children, right? You're a mom. I know you are. So when your kid comes and they feel really, really something, really, really angry or really, really impatient, we can take these exact two very common feelings for children, right? You as their mom can really, really be involved with their feeling, right? But you can also, and you know that it is better for them if you can give them the space to feel what they're feeling while having the patience. It's like your kid is feeling what they're feeling, the impatience, and you're having patience for them to feel it. Your kid is feeling very angry and you're holding the calm, right? Have you done this before as a mom?
I can't recall it now, but could be.
Most probably. I'm sure you have. Maybe not in every moment. We have also some skills to develop as parents, and it can be very challenging, but I'm sure that there were moments that your child was very upset or very scared or very something, and you gave them the space to feel that while you didn't feel it. And you held the space and you gave even the opposite of it until they could tune to that to some degree, right? So that's what we want to do, okay? That's what we want to do. You want to be able not to try to change your state, all right? You're not trying to change your feeling. You're trying to that's what compassion is, all right? That's what compassion is. Compassion is to be able to hold, in this case, yourself as you are going through this motion, feeling impatience, feeling anger, while holding the awareness of your greater self. Now, here's the thing. Feelings of impatience or anger are very potent. That's why it's so powerful, actually, to be in water, because the more you feel, the more you are in your emotion, the more potent is that moment, that real-time moment that you want to shift. You understand? Because emotions are energy in motion. So the stronger the emotion, the more potent is the energy. Now, of course, you want it to be a strong emotion of patience and calm and not of impatience and anger, but it's one and the same. It's one and the same. These are two polar opposite of the same thing. So, okay, so you can, in that real-time moment, actually use that potent energy of the strong emotion that you're feeling, the strong impatience that now is turning already to strong anger, and you can transmute that potent energy into as much patience, as much calm. All right? How do you do that? First of all, by opening your mind and heart to this possibility. Okay? That is possible right now. I'm not saying in the real time, but now as we are in our rehearsal room, here in this conversation as you will be practicing this further, I want you to open your mind to this possibility, okay? To this possibility. And then I want you to, in the real time, stay with the feeling, okay? Oh, I'm so impatient. Oh, I'm so hungry, okay? So now, can you see how this is different from running with your thoughts? No, I know better, and running. It's like being with your feeling. I'm not saying trying to think something else. I'm not even trying to get you to feel something different. I want to get you to feel the emotion. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Okay? I'm feeling this much anger in real time. Again, this might take some practice, but in real time, oh my God, I'm so angry. Maybe even identify like, oh, my belly's hurting. I feel it in my belly. I feel it in my wherever, my jaw, wherever that is. So now let's put this in bullet points so we can digest the information. Number 1, identify the feeling and name it. Number 2, even intensify it. I am so angry, right?
I feel so angry.
Sorry?
I feel so angry.
Yeah, I'm feeling so angry. Feeling so angry. So name it, intensify it, give it your attention, and then feel it in the body. Where is it in the body? And then you're going to say, okay, what's the other side of this emotion? And because these are patterns that you are aware of, as we said, we are working with patterns you are aware of, you can prepare yourself for the next time, right? Like we're doing now. What is the opposite of these emotions? You're going to know that in real time, right? Because you're doing the work. And so you know, okay, if I'm feeling anger, this is giving me access to calm, to clarity. You can find a few more words to this as you're working with this and preparing your tool to work with. Yes. Like you practice, like I've been practicing my flute. Yes. So you're going to work with your anger not in real time, in your rehearsal room. You're going to work with this further. So you know what's the polar opposite, calm, maybe clarity, right? Anger can give you clarity because there's a lot of momentum in that feeling. There's a lot of focus in that feeling. Focus is clarity. Okay. So you're going to be very prepared with what is the polar opposite. Okay. What is the other side of this emotion? What is the other side when you move through the eye of the needle, as you are in the eye of the storm of this emotion? What is on the other side? Okay. And you're going to let yourself feel the emotion and then tapping into the greater you that knows the polar opposite. Okay. And you see that in this real time, and I want to hear back from you. Okay. So Emily, when she shared, she felt extreme grief, extreme grief. But you doing this work, she was able in the real time situations, meaning in like the ceremonies, the alone at night at home, all what we can imagine that someone in grief, the situations where they meet it the most, she was able in these times to actually access her power, her greater self doing this work. Okay. So again, I'm aware again of the time and I want to make sure that we're moving on also to earth. But can you see how you can start working with this? You're aware of these intense feelings that activate within you in real time very quickly. And now you're going to, first of all, do some preparation work. What is the polar opposite of that? And then in real time, again, name it, intensify it, feel it in the body, and then tap into that greater field of awareness. And just as I am feeling this, I know the polar opposite is accessible. And I'm going to hold myself as I'm feeling and access the polar opposite at the same time. At the same time. This is a great, great skill to have.
Okay.
Okay. And I want to hear from you how you're experiencing this when you're putting this into work, when you're on the stage of life, as I call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear from it.
Let me know. Okay. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing. And I want you to ask everyone now to just put in the chat water if you see yourself in this, if this is resonating with you, if you understand what this was. Okay. And I see those waters coming in. Beautiful. Oh, and I also see that some of you are sharing that you're already in the now shift. I'm so happy. I'm so excited for this one. I'm so excited for this one. Yes, water. Oh, and beautiful, Nikki. So happy to have you. Wonderful. Okay, good. So now we want to move into earth. Yes? Now we want to move into earth. So earth is where you are. Earth is where you are. It's where it becomes actionable, right? Again, don't forget, they all intertwine, right? It's not like time stops and you are only thinking and you're only in air, or time stops and now you're only feeling and of course, when Carlina was thinking in air, she was also feeling and acting. And when Krista was in water and she's feeling the anger, she's also thinking thoughts and demonstrating behavior. But when we talk about earth, this is when we can access, remember, this whole idea with the element is what is the access points, right? So each element gives you an access point for shifting in real time. That's the idea. So when you are in your earth element, you can change your behavior, okay? You have access to change your behavior in real time, okay? So that's where we're going to go in now. And so I want to ask you to raise your hand. Nikki, I'm going to remove your hand because it was from there before, and I'm not sure if this applies. Okay, but you can raise it again if that resonates. I want you to raise your hand. Okay, you already raised. All right, so Nikki, let's go. Let me invite you on. You already, of course, because we can all recognize ourselves in this, right? It's just it changes in different moments, and then some of us find ourselves more in one than the other, right? It also can change in different periods of our life. But Nikki, you raised your hand, so let's just dive right in. I'm going to ask you to unmute so we can also hear you. Hello. I'm so happy to meet you actually for the first time. So with Krista and with Carlina, I got a chance to work before. We didn't get a chance ever to work directly. So welcome. I'm excited to connect with you.
Thank you.
You are in London, right? I think you said in the chat before.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful. Perfect. So then, Earth. Earth is all about standard, decision, and execution. All right? Standard, decision, and execution. So in real time, do you want to give us briefly the situation that you were working with?
What, from the beginning when we were kind of in water?
Yes, or well, if you were in water back then no, but when you raise your hand now for earth,
Okay.
did you have something in mind of where, you are in a situation where you just looking for a shift to show up differently? It's not like you're not taken over by a feeling. It's a change of action. It's a change of decision.
Well, actually, this has been happening quite a lot for me recently. So
Yes.
I have this thing sometimes when it's normally first thing in the morning that my thoughts are really negative.
Yes.
And I've really noticed when I just start taking that action to move through the day and not cling to the thoughts,
Yes.
that I can see the difference in the energy, if that makes
Yes.
sense. So like this morning I woke up and I was feeling very heavy and exhausted, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to feel like I'm going to achieve anything today. But I didn't get attached to those thoughts. I just got up, I had a shower, I had a coffee. Is that what you mean? Am I doing this right?
Well, first of all, there's no right or wrong. So this makes total sense for sure. It sounds like in the mornings, you're actually changing your actions. So you're not following your thoughts with your actions. So that's really good. So you're doing the right thing. Maybe we can look into, since you're sharing that this is how you're waking up, maybe we can look at how you're going to sleep. Okay. Because in my experience, very often when there's a pattern of waking up with negative thoughts, you are probably violating some standards, which is what Earth is about when it comes to when you're going to sleep. Okay. Because it sounds like you're waking up, you're recognizing this pattern, and you're doing something about it, which is really, really good. Now we want to, but there's other parts where you're not doing something about it, right? So let's go with the example you've given, but actually not focus on the in the morning, which sounds like you are doing something about it. But my guess is that probably you're violating standards when you're going to sleep. Is this making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So then, what is a standard that you are violating in your behavior during that in that situation that we are now choosing to focus on, which is not the morning, but rather the bedtime? That is the first question you want to ask yourself. So, for example, maybe it's scrolling. Real down to earth examples, right? Maybe that's not you, just common examples, right? Maybe it's scrolling. Maybe it's just watching net, not scrolling, but still screen time, right? Maybe it's, I don't know, talking to someone until you go to sleep, and maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe just sitting down and worrying, like Anne suggested, and not doing something about it. Just sitting down, letting your thoughts roam, but actually not in the right direction. And unlike in the morning, not doing something about it. So what is the standard that you're violating in your behavior? Something that you know you should be doing and you're not doing, or something you know you shouldn't be doing and you're doing? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm guilty of the scrolling aspect for sure, but I think sometimes like my sleep can be quite broken. So I can get into bed with that sort of, oh, I'm not going to sleep well pattern.
So that's a thought. So by the way, this is air,
Yeah.
this specific example. So you can ask yourself, what's a better feeling thought than this? All right.
Yeah.
But let's stay in earth for now. Of course, this is an exercise. So we're choosing where to focus in real time. If you're just thinking that thought, you can stay with that and work with it in air. But if it's already going into your behavior and you're sitting there and you're just thinking more thoughts, more thoughts, more thoughts, and it's getting more dense, right? Then
I'm gonna sleep well tonight.
say that again?
Well, it's like earth is a more positive thought, right? So I'm gonna go to bed and sleep well.
Okay, yes. So are you saying this is what you're doing? You're just going to sleep?
What I probably need to do more. I've noticed that, I do have a negative thought pattern before I go to sleep. But I think, when I do not get attached to those negative thoughts, that's the sort of outcome, those sort of words.
Right. So we just want to, so this is really, really good what we're doing here, because it shows me, and I wanted to show you how we need to zoom in, right? Because you're saying, so I have negative thoughts before I go to sleep. I probably should have positive thoughts and go to sleep. Yeah, exactly. However, you're not doing that because there's no access point there, right? So we're going to work further, and you're in the now shift, so that's perfect. It's going to give us a good opportunity to really work with all the elements, because you might be in different elements in that situation in different times. But for the exercise that we're doing here with Earth, okay? Earth is about changing behavior in real time, all right? So in real time, when you are sitting at home and you are having, and you know you want to go to bed, or even if you wake up in the middle of the night by now, but let's focus on before bedtime for now, okay? And you want to go to bed, and it's time to go to bed. We want you to raise your standard as to what you are doing before bedtime, okay? And then you want to become acutely aware of when you are violating your standard, okay? So this is not a thought, it's a behavior, okay? It's regardless of the thought and regardless of the feeling, you are going to demonstrate a new behavior. If it's not accessible for you, that means you need to work with the thoughts or feelings. But sometimes, especially with practice, it's going to be accessible for you just then, okay? So that means, first of all, for example, with your example, yes, of bedtime, what time you are starting the actions you're going to decide that you're going to take before bedtime, right? So when does your bedtime starts, right? Is an example. What would the version of you who is no longer available for scrolling and worrying and going too late to bed and all the behaviors that you're going to shift, what is she going to do instead, right? How does Nikki 2.0, who wakes up positive in the morning and sleeps well at night, how does she go to bed? This is a question I want to ask yourself. So working with Earth is asking yourself a question like this, okay? Again, we're going to go deeper into this, of course, in the 8 weeks that we're going to have together. But for the short samples that we're doing here today, this is the one for Earth. So question number one is, what is the standard that I'm violating in this behavior that I want to change? Question number two, what is the version of me who is not experiencing this repeating situation? What is she doing differently? Okay, how is she behaving? What is the behavior she's demonstrating? And then you want to ask yourself, what is the smallest step I can take, the smallest change I can take to shift? So, for example, in this example, Nikki, with the bedtime, this can be, if you're having negative thoughts before bedtime, you can write them down. You're still having the same thoughts, but you're going to write them down. That's going to create a big shift for you. Just write them down. Just empty, dump. It's called a mind dump. Okay. Just dump all your mind on a piece of paper. You will see this will change. This will start shifting. So this is just an example. What is a small shift? So again, just like with Krista, there's some preparation to do, right? So you're going to sit with yourself and also with me and us inside the 8 weeks we're going to work together, but you can of course start this already before, and you're going to prepare yourself, right? You're going to prepare yourself. So for example, what we're going to do together is do all these preparations, right? So from inside the now shift, in each element, you're going to prepare all the things in advance. So in real-time situations, you know what is the better feeling thought. You know what is the polar opposite emotion. You're going to know what are those next shift in behavior that you're going to apply, all right? But for example, for now, for this sample that we're making, this is something that I want to suggest to you. You're having worried thoughts, you're going to write them down, okay? And we're going to create together, when we work on this together, Nikki, a set of changes. You're not going to make them all at once, but you're going to raise the standard bit by bit and shift in real-time situations, knowing those new standards, and you're going to change your behavior, okay? So Earth is about, to recap this, Earth is about standard, decision, and behavior, execution of the decision, okay? And Earth is about evidence. So here is the last point for Earth, because evidence is physical, right? We're always looking for the physical evidence. So you're going to ask yourself, what evidence can I find in my behavior, in my experience that I shifted? It can be as simple as I wrote my negative thoughts, right? So now I have this piece of paper where I wrote the negative thoughts. I can burn it, I can shred it, I can look at it. You see, like you're looking for physical evidence. Okay. Can you see how you can, Nikki, apply this to the pattern that you've shared with us with waking up in the morning? But as I said, you're waking up and you're starting doing actions to shift your state. That's great. Now we want you to do this before you go to bed. And even when you wake up in the middle of the night, although I'm telling you, the more you're going to do this before you go to bed, you're going to sleep better at night, in fact. Can you see how we're going to work further on this, but how you can work with this to change your behavior in real time, preparing yourself in advance and then making one small change in your behavior that will give you evidence that I did something different. And it will shift how you move and lead yourself in real time physically on a physical behavioral level. Can you see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you willing to start already today, specifically with what we talked about today, in fact?
Yeah.
I want you to write down your thoughts, okay? So before you go to bed, decide on when it's going to happen, and you're going to sit down and just write them all out. Just write them out. Dump it until you have nothing else to say, and then you can shred it or burn it. And you will see that while doing that, your thinking will shift. Your feeling will shift. And this is just the starting point. And then we're going to prepare more shifts in behavior for you. We're going to work on this together. Okay? Thank you so much for coming here and sharing this. This is just a little taste. And I thank you so much, Nikki. And I want to ask you to put in the chat, Earth, if you can resonate with this, of how shifting your behavior in real time can be accessible for you. Not always, right? Not always. When you are too much in water, the shift in behavior is not going to happen. When you're too much in air, also, but sometimes it's all you need to do. Just like you're already doing that, Nikki, in the morning. In fact, you're already doing that in the morning, right? Beautiful. Good. I see that you're resonating with that. That's really, really good. Now, fire, we're not going to cover today. Okay. We're definitely going to go into this in the now shift. Fire is where you are really going to the core, to the underlying, under the earth, where the lava is, where we are forging our identity. And that is where we're going to do the deeper healing work. So your identity can merge with what you desire and fuse into one in the fire, in the depth of the fire. Okay. And we're going to talk about separation. We're going to talk about the core wound. We're going to talk about the spiral of your experience so you can go into the deepest and rise to the highest. Okay, we're not going to do this today. These are not the full processes, but the samples of the processes of air, water, and earth. Fire, we're going to do inside the now shift. All right. And you want to learn how to move on that spiral. Okay. So you can truly expand and grow and improve your experience. And it can always happen only in real time. You can practice. You can use your memory to think back. You can use your imagination to imagine forward. And you have to do those things. And most people do them in a way that sabotages themselves more than enriches their life. But you can only shift in real time, only in real time. And that's what this is about, right? So you can know, you can understand, you can have awareness, but you want to have access points in real time to actually shift. And that is what this work that I've introduced to you today is about, and what we're going to go deeper in the now shift itself. So someone asked, feeling lost now, I still know I will access joy through intensifying my feeling of loss. In a nutshell, yes. Of course, we want to work with that. I don't know who asked this question. It sounds like it's a question that came up in the chat earlier when we were working with water. But yes, if you let yourself feel lost fully, accessing the feeling in real time, you can learn how to feel the joy. And I can tell you this from experience myself. I see Carmen is nodding. Carmen is one of our coaches on the team. and she's been doing this work for a long time, and she's been supporting many. So you know what I mean, right? Like you can be in the deepest of the emotion and access the highest of the emotion at the same time. And that is a very, very deep level of embodiment, of healing. And we will work with that. Also, there might be fire involved here as well, right? So, as we said, the elements, it's not like it's not like, okay, now I need a hammer and now I need a saw. We are humans. It's a moving energy. But when you learn how to work with the elements, you can in real time say, okay, now I am in this element and now I'm going to use this tool. And so when we talk about loss and other strong emotions, it can be water, it can be fire. Okay, it can be fire as well. So we will work with that. Any other questions, team, before I wrap it up? I want to say thank you to everyone being here until this very moment. I never take lightly your attention and your time, your most important assets and valuable assets that you have when you invest them with me and with us. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for investing in yourself, your time and your energy to develop yourself, to improve your life, to take ownership and responsibility. I do not take this lightly at all. I want to thank my team, the amazing team that have been here and are always here. Thank you so much for your support. And I'm really, really excited for this next iteration of the work. And now Shift, I'm really, really excited for that. Really excited for that. I trust that you could feel the inspiration that came through this teaching. So this is a result of, the work that I continue to do as well, and my very, very strong intention and desire to change the world one person at a time, right? So this yielded a new way to do the work and to access shifting in real time, which is a really big need that I recognize in so many people that I work with. And so I'm really excited for this. Thank you for being here. It's been an absolute delight. So thank you for being here. Big welcome to those who joined us. So much love to you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening or day and a wonderful start to your week. Bye, everyone.